We'll take off, I think, where you all left off with the speaker, and that is paid sick days. I think the Democrats want to downplay the impact of that, but it is a significant policy change in the state of Connecticut because right now, part-time workers don't receive those kind of benefits. This will extend it. This is also going to dictate how the leave is able to be taken. So where people normally take a day off, they're now able to take a couple of hours off as they so choose. And all our businesses, whether you have one employee or 50 employees, you're all going to be subject to this new legislation. It's going to impact our daycares, potentially their ratios for children to teachers. If a teacher could say, I need to leave for 5 hours. So to say this bill is no big deal is really an understatement.
What's being lost here is that in that inability of a business owner to negotiate, by making it a law, and rather than between the employer and the employee, which oftentimes is amicable. This does not have to be. They don't have to be at odds with each other on these negotiations. You bring the state of Connecticut into it with a lot of regulations, and I think really this opens up to potential litigation and a lot of liability on the part of a business owner. For a small-time business owner getting started, they don't have a huge back office, not a lot of support. So I think inadvertently you could have business owners on the wrong side of the law when they're trying to do the right thing by their employees.
Well, it is truly the state of Connecticut is telling every business of how they're going to do their job and how they're going to have what type of relationships they are going to have with their employees. And talk to, have conversations with Yard Goat Stadium or Quasi Amusement Park, the impact that this legislation could have on them, people that rely on part-time help. I think that is going to be a game changer for our retail markets, et cetera.
It is amazing to me that some still think that the relationship between an employer and an employee is from 50 years ago. It just doesn't work that way anymore. The reason this hasn't been so detrimental to the service industry, which has been living under these rules for the past 12 years, is that they made it for 50 or more, right? Why don't we allow small businesses to be small? They need the time to grow. If an employer can afford this benefit, they'll give the benefit. If they can't, if they're not doing it for their employees, it means it's because they can't. And the fact that they can take it at an hour at a time, it's outrageous to say that it's vacation time. Vacation time is planned for. You go to your employer and say, 2 weeks from now, I'm taking a few days off for vacation. This is hour by hour without notice for any reason. So an employer has to not only pay the person to be off, they have to pay somebody to come in to do their job. Not every business is like an office where the paperwork just sits on the desk and piles up for the next day. And on top of everything else, I believe, the most important thing is, for 10 years, Connecticut was the laughingstock, the butt of every joke in the country. Some of the worst economic policies going, massive tax increases, massive employer mandates. Do we really want to go back there? What message are we sending to the rest of the country? We are just starting to get our act together, and now here we go again, telling employers, no, whatever you do, don't come here.
Well, we didn't see the final language, but right now, an employee that works less than 120 days is not entitled. But once you hit that 120-day threshold, you're then entitled to these benefits from that day on. So there is an argument they're claiming it doesn't apply to seasonal employees. There's no language in the bill that excludes seasonal employees. It most certainly does apply to them. It most certainly does apply to part-time help the minute you hit that threshold of 120 days.
Well, but 120 days is a significant exemption.
No, it's not. It's 4 months.
It's 4 months.
Once you work 4 months and you're on the payroll, you qualify.
For what people think of as seasonal work, I mean, somebody mentioned the yard goats, so that certainly covers their season.
No, it doesn't, because those people come back the next year. They've met the qualifications.
Oh, even if you...
It's not 120 in one calendar year. No.
I don't believe so.
No, it rolls over.
Once you're an employee, it's when you hit the 120 days.
Right. If you don't use it, the next year you don't start accruing again. You pick up where you left off.
I guess the point to be made is the Democrats want to play down the significance of this legislation and the applicability of this legislation merely to get it over the finish line. Once it gets over the finish line, I guarantee you are going to see the devastating impacts that it's going to have, not just on the employers, but the employees as well.
But is your expectation that the Democrats will get it across the finish line?
Well, they never call a bill that's going to fail. But I think it's going to be a hard sell. The only way they're going to be able to sell it to their caucus is to downplay. You know, when you start talking about bodegas in Hartford and the impact that it's going to have on those stores, there are people in this building that don't want to support the legislation. I believe representations have been made, doesn't apply to them. Well, guess what? It does. So when they begin to find out what's really in the bill, I'm not sure it gets called tomorrow. But if it does, it's a sad day for Connecticut.